So, good morning, everyone. I'm Damakshi Mistry, your host for this paper presentation session on the theme Media and Society of the NUV Media Connect conference hosted by the Journalism and Mass Communication program of Navratna University in collaboration with Arab Open University, Saudi Arabia, and program of Navratna University in collaboration with Research Culture Society Vadodara. Someone stated correctly that media provides the essential link between the individual and the demands of technological society. The presenters for today's paper presentation are Professor Gilbert A.R., Ms. Fasna K., Professor Sagrika Dash, Ms. Radhika R. Nair, Ms. Farzana Anzar, Ms. Kirti Shah, Mr. Ashish Kumar Srivastava, Ms. Shridhar K. Reji, and Professor Azaz Ahmed Ghani.
I would like to introduce Dr. Nikhila Bhutia. She is an associate professor in Jain University, Jain deemed to be University, Bangalore. She has an extensive experience in research and she's a good scholar. I'm so happy to welcome Dr. Nikhila Bhutia to this session, and thank you so much for joining with us, Dr. Nikhila. Thank you. Over to Dr. Nikhila.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Dr. Robbie. It's a pleasure being here. And my public speaking skills are rather limited, so I think I will not waste more time here. It's really nice to be here. So why don't we actually start the presentation, sir? Possible? And all the best to all the presenters.
Thank you, ma'am. So, the first paper presenter is Professor Gilbert A.R. Sir, we would like you to introduce yourself first and then start with your presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning to you all. I am Gilbert Aya, Assistant Professor in the Institute of Communication and Journalism, MG University, Kottayam, Kerala. My paper is, title of the paper is Changing Trends of Journalism in the COVID Era, Study Among Journalists in Kerala. The paper is done with Dr. Rocky Agustin, my research guide, and the head of the Department of Mass Communication, Navratna University. Coming to the introduction, journalism plays an enormous role in diffusing information to the society. And it has changed a lot of changes in the society, especially in the journalism sector. And 2020 has witnessed an unprecedented challenges in all over the industry. News reporters and photographers struggled a lot to get news from different sources. And also the collecting of reporting was very different from this time. Thus, the editors in the newsroom heavily depend on the news agencies and wire services, and most of the stories reduced to corona-related matters. For example, Italian local newspapers were filled with obituary report during March, and it went up to 10 obituary pages. And also it scaled down the editorial operation, salary reduction, or even termination of journalists. Then there was a rumor that newspaper would spread virus, shrunk the daily newspaper circulation during the pandemic period. And to overcome the unparalleled situation of lockdown and quarantine, journalists and media organizations implemented drastic changes. The struggles and the major concern of the study is focusing on the struggles and other changes in the field of journalism during pandemic. The study tries to explore the challenges faced by the print media journalist. An overview of journalism and journalists in Kerala. There are 15 daily broadsheet newspapers and 2 evening dailies. And coming to the background of the study is analyzing the various impact of pandemic upon the working journalist of print media in Kerala. There are two objectives. That is to understand the challenges faced by the journalists and media professionals of print media in Kerala. And another one is to find out the new ways adopted and implemented by print media in Kerala to tackle the COVID-19 challenges. And the methodology questionnaire surveys employed here to generate the primary sources, a convenient sampling surveys conducted among print media journalists across Kerala. And data analysis part, the survey is conducted among 30 print media journalists across Kerala by forming 36 questions. And it found that the major objective of the study found that newspaper faced the issue of revenue from advertisement was a challenge faced by the journalists and media professionals, especially during the lockdown. Work shift arrangement were an extra effort. Work from home was a challenge and it affected the direct reporting. Work pressure was increased in the print media. Then misinformation and fake news was disseminated through print media. Political news has led the newspaper industry to deviate the focus from COVID-19 news. Awareness on the spread of virus was disseminated through newspapers. Scarcity of news was an issue during lockdown. Number of pages were cut down in the newspaper. Journalists need more care and attention from the government. And the ways adopted and implemented by the journalists during pandemic are as follows. Newspapers managed with health report when there was no assigned page. Journalists got special privilege to move around the society during lockdown. Creativity in reporting has increased. Work from home was effective. They could spend more time with family. These were the implementation they adopted during the pandemic. And coming to the finding and conclusion of the study that journalists are the real life fighters along with the socially accepted COVID fighters of the society. And media houses need special attention and privileges in the society. That's all, my study. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Navratna University.
Thank you.
Especially giving me this opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now we have Professor Sagarika Das. Could you introduce yourself?
Okay, this is me, Dr. Sagarika Das. I'm right now at Dehradun, Sri Guru Ram Rai University, serving as associate professor. So, just my paper is visible. The slides are visible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you for giving this opportunity in the Media Connect. Okay, my this presentation is on regional language content can raise media participation of women in India. As we go through the regional language content, we can see the regional language, we have the backdrop that the regional language and the regional language content have its own advantage over the other language and its content. Secondly, the education, entertainment, and infotainment is more impactful when it is given in the regional language. And thirdly, it also connects the community and the people living and help in the exchange of ideas, thoughts, and words in a influential way. So when we go through the literature review, we can see that the 9 out of 10 new smartphone users look for the regional, the women users look for the regional language content in their media devices or the mobile devices, because they think they are better versed with the regional language and they can more participate and can better participate in their regional language. And secondly, when you go through the regional language content for the internet report, we can see that the internet users among the urban and the rural areas and that is increasing, and mostly the women are increasing. So I think the regional language, the use of more and more content in the regional language will definitely, it will eliminate the higher disparity between the male and female. And again, if you go through the World Bank report, when we see the education for this new education policy, even World Bank and UNICEF has agreed to that that without the use of mother tongue, children potential is often wasted, resulting in educational failure. So these new education policies also impacting more and more focus on the use of regional languages, because this thing, the second language they can better understand when the first language is they are well versed with. And another, if you go through the Indian Lab Observer Research Foundation, we can see that the men literacy is higher than women in India over the use of media content, and it can be the gap can be mended, or it can be filled up if more and more regional content will be available to the women. So my objective of study is to understand the women's view on rise in regional language content, and second, to study if women participation will increase with rise in regional language content. So I have taken a survey with a group of 20 to 40 and 40 to 60 women. I have divided the group to both, and the area of study was Bhubaneswar, because it is an emerging field in the regional language content is emerging with the time with the Bhubaneswar. And if we go through the other thing, we can see the print media. The print media has added so many pages on women, so many regional, the vernacular page, the newspapers has also increased. The online pages of these vernacular newspapers has also increased. So print media has accepted an increase in the regional language content. So also the television. As we see the NTO, the new implementation that has been implemented in 2019, the new traffic order that has given us the freedom to choose our set of languages and set of channels. So people are preferring more of the regional language because of this NTO. It has become a privilege for us, for the regional language users. And the regional language viewership has also increased from the 33% as we see in all the channels in the television. And also we can see this trend, the same trend we can also see in the digital media. The many characters, many strong narratives has come with the many series in the OTT platform. So more and more women are covered. So I think if the regional language comes in the OTT or digital media more and more often, the women will also get exposed and will be more participants in the media activities and the media uses. So this is a table of survey I have taken. I have given them few questions like what were the preference of their language. If I have given them 3 language, English, Hindi, and the Odia, their local language or the regional language. So this question has been formed and based on it, given their choice and the preference. What will be the most preferred language in the media consumption, in the media content. So these are the findings we can see. We can see the regional language, people are very well versed with they are communicating more and more with the regional language. They feel happier with communicating with it. And we can also see they feel more connected with the sender of the information, being because language can be a barrier in communication. So when there is a barrier between the sender and receiver, the communication cannot be happen. So I think the regional language, they are more familiar with the sender of the information when it is with their regional language. Secondly, during the pandemic, when asked during the pandemic what was the consumption of their content, the regional language or the Hindi or the English, so most of them agreed they have preferred to the local language and the regional language news and other items related to the pandemic, for getting the pandemic information. And also the video also during the period, as many were free, they were just looking into the videos and just spending their time like this. So when I asked them, they said in case of the video, they also, the Hindi was very much famous between the 20 to 40, but they have their reason, because Odia language or the regional language content was not much available on videos, so they had to go for the Hindi language. So similarly, the women also feel good when the dubbed content or subtitles are given in their own language for the serials, and the very happened with the Mahabharata and the Ramayana serials during the pandemic. And also the OTT platform, also the women to 40 to 60 preferred the regional language, because they think they will the regional content will be more informative, more entertaining, seeing their own stories and all the dialects, going through the dialects of their own. And the women, when it's come to educational video, I think both of the group also think the English is the first priority. They think still it is the first priority, but they don't mind if better content will be available in the regional language. So also with the poems and the rhymes, as an example, I can say there was a poem in the Bengali I saw. There's a rhyme in the Bengali. It was Johnny Johnny, instead of yes Papa, it was in Bengali Johnny Johnny yes Mama. So we can say the regional language we can also experiment. We can experiment as per our society, as for the we can disparities we can come across all these things. We can add more and more as per our Indian culture, instead of just following the same what we used to see from the long that Johnny Johnny yes Papa. So we can better experiment in the regional language. So again, the women feel they get emotional more watching the regional content, and they feel more. Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but your time. Could you
Yes, just 5 minutes, just a few minutes. So they feel more connected, and the most important, what I came across, they feel they think the regional media is more authentic. They, because of the proximity, they can just differentiate between the fake news and the real news in case of regional content, which is because the fake news is a serious issue right now. So regional media can eliminate this fake news trend. They think they can better differentiate between the fake and real news in the. So this is the conclusion, and I think with the rise in the regional content, the women participation will increase definitely, and the women will be the creator of the regional content. The women will be the audience of the regional content, and more as if more and more women will be covered, more and more women will consume, and more women will be in the media. So that will. At large, they will. It also bring shift in the consumption and on the participation of women in media. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we have Miss Radhika R. Nair.
Hi everyone, thanks for the opportunity. Is my audio audible for everyone? I just wanted to check.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So hi, I'm Radhika, I'm from Cochin and I'm a PhD scholar in Navratna University. And I'm pretty much impressed with the ongoing presentation. So I would like to present my paper also. Here we go. Hope my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yes. So the title of my presentation is, give me a moment, sorry. Okay, the title of my presentation is Online Journalism During COVID-19, a survey among online journalists in Kerala. The content of my presentation includes an introduction, an abstract, objectives, review of literature, methodology, analysis and findings, then the conclusion. An introduction to my paper. The novel coronavirus has changed everything around us. From wearing a mask stands the new normal to work from home becoming a routine. The virus has changed our lives upside down. Global financial crisis, crows losing their jobs, education going completely online. It'll be tough to point out one sector which could survive the pandemic without harm. Just like any other sphere. Hello. Okay. Just like any other sphere, journalism has also been badly impacted by the crisis. From many print media getting stalled to newsrooms set up from homes, the pandemic has rather kick-started a new phase in Indian journalism. So my research paper intends to have a detailed study on the changes in journalism sector by the impact of the global pandemic. As I said before, the research follows a qualitative approach and survey is the method opted for data collection. Along with journaling the new techniques adapted by media persons, the research article will also be predicting some of the practices which will be implemented in the newsrooms in future, inspired from the pandemic era. The objectives of my study includes, the study aims to find the changing trends in the field of online journalism, to explore the extent to which the lockdown has influenced the users, to study the struggles the online journalists have undergone through the pandemic, to find out how the work from home has affected the professional as well as the personal life of working journalists, and to identify the creative ideas used by the journalists to keep the viewers engaged. Talking about the review of literature, there was an interesting article published in Times of India. It spoke about the work from home culture throughout the world. The article mentions that according to a survey conducted by software developer Atlassian across 65 countries, India spent 30 minutes more at work in April and May as compared to the beginning of the era. And in another article published by New Indian Express, the title of the article was COVID pandemic, social media and digital distancing. The role of social media during the pandemic is given in detail. As per the article, the degree of media panic, the amount of media consumption, and the consequent change in public relation have been much higher during COVID-19. In another article published by First Post under the title Nipah virus, Kerala floods, and now COVID-19, Malayalam media's coverage of crisis offer a model worth replicating for constructive journalism. The news article details the role played by the Malayalam media during the outbreak of unfortunate events like Kerala floods of 2018-19, Nipah virus outbreak in 2018-19, and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The article says that the Malayalam media focused on solution-based journalism, which resulted in guiding people towards measures or a preventive cure to overcome the crisis. The author also opinions that Malayalam news media's constructive involvement in recent events of crisis is a model to evaluate. So the methodology I have followed for the study is, it's a qualitative method, and it was a study to collect primary data. An online questionnaire survey was conducted among online journalists in Kerala. And it was by a convenient sampling method. 20 responses were collected from journalists from different media houses. The survey was conducted among 20 online journalists from Kerala who represent both the English as well as the regional language. A look into the analysis and findings. I have given them questions talking about the working hours, and there was a comparison done between the hours they work before the COVID crisis and after, during the work from home phase. So surprisingly, the conclusion I could come to was, as per the survey, 55% of the online journalists were or are working more than 8 hours in the recent times. Talking about the main source of news during the pandemic, 90% of my respondents told that social media was their main source of news during the pandemic. Talking about the quality of work during the pandemic, 55% of my respondents agreed that the quality of their work increased during the lockdown or the work from home phase. Talking about the influence of work from home in their technical knowledge, 60% of the journalists in Kerala opinionated that their technical skills were improved during this phase. Talking about undergoing depression during the work from home phase, 55% of my respondents opened up that they have suffered from depression during the work from home phase. Talking about misinformation, 60% of the online journalists from Kerala shared that they have noticed disinformation during the pandemic. Talking about the readership, the changing trend in readership during the lockdown, 63% of my respondents recorded that there have been increase in the readership of there have been an increase in the readership online during the pandemic. And talking about the advantages the pandemic has brought to the online journalism, my respondents gave me multiple options, and some among them was Zoom interview became popular, readers increased, they could find more opportunities in online journalism, more output, changing work culture and workflow, and they even opinionated that work can go on even without an office. Then they shared that people depend on social media more during the pandemic. More innovative ideas came, and they were focused on topics in depth. Talking about the disadvantages the pandemic has given, my respondents recorded that there is a loss in profit making, fake journalism increased, scarcity of ad revenue, disinformation, lack of authenticity, no work, they were missing the work-life balance during the work from home phase, then more working hours and lack of teamwork.
I'm so
As per the, yes, please.
Ma'am, you have 1 minute left for your
Yes,
presentation.
I'm just in the concluding slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as per the survey, here are the conclusions I could arrive. The working hours of the online journalists have increased during the work from home space. Social media is the main source of news during the pandemic. The technical knowledge of online journalists have been improved during the pandemic. The quality as well as the quantity of work has been improved during the work from home phase. Even though there were not many physical issues, the majority of online journalists experienced depression during work from home. And finally, the readership of Malayalam online portals have increased during the pandemic. Here are some of the reference, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now moving ahead, we have Ms. Farzana Anzar.
Hello, yes. Good afternoon, all. My name is Farzana Simran Anzaruddin, and I'm a student at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. I'd like to thank the organizers of Media Connect 21 for giving me the opportunity to present my paper titled White Supremacism Silver Screen, Cinema's Cause-Effect Relationship with the Ku Klux Klan. Now, the paper looks at the significance of cinema as a product of contemporary culture and an influence on the same, with respect to the Ku Klux Klan, a terrorist organization. This is done by the content analysis of two diametrically opposite films, which constitute the primary sources: D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation and Spike Lee's Black Klansman. Now, how is cinema related to culture? Cinema is one of the most potent forms of media, reflecting as well as influencing prevalent cultural aspects. And what is the Ku Klux Klan? It is fundamentally an American white supremacist organization. The first Klan was founded post-Civil War with neo-Confederate interests. They reached peak popularity with the second Klan with more than 5 million members in 1920. The third Klan arose as an opposition to the civil rights movement in the 1950s and persists even today. Operating primarily in the South, the Klan is then famous for using extreme violence to oppress the subaltern. D.W. Griffith's film is responsible for the second and third Klan, as the regional, limited, and almost decimated first Klan was incapable of resurrection on its own. Now, the study raises questions regarding the role of media as propaganda, its cultural values, and correlation with society. It's also relevant in the context of the Black Lives Matter movement as a response to worldwide xenophobia. Cinema is the most effective mode of instruction owing to its accessibility and entertainment value. Therefore, it is crucial that cinema is used as a vehicle of unlearning to guide the collective consciousness of the audience toward equality. The objective of this paper is to explore how cinema is responsible for the revival of the Ku Klux Klan and how it is atoning for the same. While the first film is the cause of the popularity of the Ku Klux Klan, the second one is the effect of the popularity of the same. Hence, we study the extent of cinema's cause-effect relationship with culture and society. Coming to the review of literature, the primary sources of the study are D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation and Spike Lee's Black Klansman. They are both adaptations of novels by Thomas Dixon and Ron Stallworth, respectively. About 100 years apart in release, these films thus portray the same organization in different lights and contexts. The former glorifies the first Klan, while the latter exposes the third Klan. Now, The Birth of a Nation was a landmark film, being the first feature-length motion picture and the first film with an intermission and a musical score. Owing to Dixon's friendship with President Woodrow Wilson, it was the first American film that was screened in the White House. However, it's also the most controversial film ever made in the United States. It acted as propaganda for the lost cause of the Confederacy with its historically inaccurate accounts and romanticization of the Ku Klux Klan. Despite futile protests and attempts to ban the film, it went on to profoundly influence not just the film industry, but also American culture. Black Klansman deals with the third and current Klan and released in theaters in memoriam exactly a year after the Charlottesville riots, when the Unite the Right rally demonstrated against the removal of a statue at the University of Virginia. Based on the memoir of the first African American detective in the CSPD, Ron Stallworth, the film follows how he successfully infiltrated the city's KKK chapter and is widely considered an antidote for the racist ideology narrativized in previous films, including D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. Well, I've already covered methodology. I've employed content analysis of the two films. Well, by distributing pamphlets at screenings, William Joseph Simmons utilized the birth of a nation as a recruiting tool and founded the Second Klan. The renewed Klan adopted the standardized white costumes and the cross burnings featured in the film, which were not observed by the original Klan. It used more titles than any other film and propagated racist stereotypes of the lazy, degenerate, sexually aggressive African American that would pervade pop culture for centuries. It is ironic that the film's major black roles were played by white actors in blackface. It conveys the greatest fear of miscegenation for which the KKK provides the heroic solution. The Dunning School and the Jim Crow laws were still prevalent while racial tensions rose with the change in demographic, thus providing favorable conditions upon which the film acted as a catalyst. Now, Black Klansman depicts the KKK as a terrorist organization masquerading as a patriotic cause, whose civilizing mission is in reality ethnic cleansing. By employing realism and social commentary, Spike Lee explicitly frames the events of the movie in the context of the current political climate and the presidency of Donald Trump. The film's ante and coda explicitly underscore this message. The ante features a highly xenophobic speech with footage from the birth of a nation, while the coda features actual footage from the 2017 Charlottesville riots, thus showing how the socio-political condition has far from improved since the 1970 scenario shown in the movie.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, ma'am.
Yes?
You have left for your presentation.
Yes, I'm almost done. Yeah. Therefore, we observe that cinema educates by mirroring and shaping the collective consciousness of its diverse audiences as agitprop and social commentary films. The potential for misinformation is also high, as creative liberties are often taken and abused. Agitprop refers to any political propaganda that is spread to the general public through popular media. The Birth of a Nation sold its credibility and is capable of misleading the present-day layman, thus qualifying as an agitprop. Cinema is a reflection of contemporary society and culture, so every movie features some kind of social commentary of the time of its setting or making. Black Klansman is a notable example of the same. The film provides social commentary in the context of the Black Lives Matter movement and the systemic prejudices in the US policing institutions. I'd like to conclude by saying that cinema is a powerful medium that can be harnessed as an agitprop social commentary among several other applications. The Birth of a Nation instigated violence against African Americans for over a century. Black Klansmen may have started a dialogue and made audiences introspect and question race relations, but there has been no real alleviation in the conditions of African Americans. The following years witnessed several cases of police brutality with the killing of George Floyd, and the widespread protests following the incident made the BLM movement one of the largest in United States history. I'd like to thank everyone for attending, especially Navrachna University for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Moving forward, we have Mr. Ashish Kumar Srivastava.
My name is Ashish. I'm a second year journalism student of Upajandar Global University, and I'm here to present my research on the topic mapping the change in social media marketing trends for food delivery brands during COVID 19. So, I'll get started with the presentation now. So, due to the time limit, I'll be jumping straight to the main content of my paper. So, e-commerce was termed as an essential service during COVID-19, and hence both Swiggy and Zomato were allowed to continue their operations while following the necessary safety measures. Before lockdown, both the brands were focused on delivering ready-to-eat food only, but they were able to identify the opportunity in this crisis named lockdown and started delivering medicines, groceries, vegetables, etc., which increased their business gradually. These are some of the initiatives taken by them. I'll go over them briefly. The first is contactless delivery. According to WHO, COVID-19 couldn't survive on a non-living surface for long. So brands introduced this initiative, which would reduce the risk of getting infected by COVID-19. The second is Genie. This was launched only by Swiggy. Through this, you could get something picked up or dropped to one place to another within the city, obviously. The third is mentioning temperature of everyone involved with the food preparation. Only Swiggy did this. So along with the order, they pasted a list which contained all the names as well as the body temperatures of the people who were involved in preparation of your food. The fourth is safety standards. You can see the second picture that's on the screen right now. Both the brands did this, that informed the users beforehand that which restaurant were following the safety measures. The last one is discontinuing cash on delivery. Cash on delivery was discontinued temporarily to avoid the spread of COVID-19, as the virus could remain on the currency notes for some time. So these were some initiatives. Now let's see how the social media marketing team made people aware about the aforementioned. The first method that they used was memes. Memes is something that a large part of the youth connects to and loves. So both the brands saw how good this could work for them and used this. These were the top three meme trends that dominated 2020, and both the brands used these and created something of their own. The second one is putting others first. You know that the marketing team is really working hard when they try to blackmail you emotionally. Swiggy tweeted that whatever profit they'll make on a particular day will be donated to the delivery personnel. The reality might be different, as Swiggy's delivery agents also went on strike due to the reduction in their earnings. So we don't know for sure whether they actually donated or not. The second type of move was when people ordered and tweeted about it, then Swiggy thanked them for supporting that particular restaurant. Marketing strategy depends on consumer psychology and behavior. Words like support mean a lot as they target people's emotional and humane side. This makes the user feel like their one order could help a whole family. Hence, they order usually out of compassion too. By doing this, the brands very cleverly implied that they were not only focused on making profits, instead, they cared for their employees. The next is showing how food's being prepared. Under the scheme launched by Swiggy, named Hope Not Hunger, they tweeted a few videos that portrayed how food's being prepared while following the necessary safety measures. Customers believe that these measures were also being followed for the normal orders that they are placing. So this worked for Swiggy's advantage. The last one is making interactive posts to increase engagement. Both the brands went head to head to make as in interactive posts as possible, and they even got the responses to them. So the marketing strategies were more like hit and trial. Brands were improving them if they were not working. In the process, few mistakes were made, and on your screen right now are those so-called mistakes. Just have a look at both the tweets so that you can get a hint of what actually happened or what those so-called mistakes are. Shall I move forward?
Yes.
Okay. And now on your screen are some of the responses to those so-called mistakes. I apologize if the language is a bit informal or offensive, but these are some of the decent responses that they got. So you could imagine all the responses that they got. Following this, digital boycotts were launched, as a result of which the apps were uninstalled. They were getting 1-star reviews on Google Play Store. But it would be safe to assume that both the boycotts lasted only 1.5 months, as by the end of the year, both the brands experienced their best day ever in terms of profits. So to conclude, the beginning of lockdown was tough for both the brands, and they also had to lay their employees off to survive. However, the situation only improved with time, and the business was booming by the end of the year. Shackles were broken, boundaries were pushed when it came to social media marketing strategies. Some actually worked for them, some they had to face repercussions. But in the end, overall, both the business were back on track by the end of the year. So it would be safe to assume that the marketing team strategies actually worked in their favor. Thank you for listening to me so patiently. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we have Ms. Sridhar K. Reji.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shidhar Kireji. I'm doing PhD in Visual Media at Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham, Mysore campus. Can I share my PPT?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
So this is a combined paper. My co-author is Dr. Robbie Augustine, Program Chair, Mass Communication, Nagarjuna University. This paper examines the effectiveness of teaching and learning in the selected universities of the state of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Gujarat, and Karnataka. Data is collected from the 90 students of UG and PG. So I'm sorry, our topic is online teaching and learning during COVID-19, a study among university students. Significance of the study. COVID-19 remarkably shifted the entire humanity and new normal was maintained everywhere, including the education sector. Colleges and universities of the world suddenly shut down to maintain social distancing and to avoid the spread of virus. Online teaching was the only solution for the teaching fraternity and consequently online learning for students during the lockdown period, so it was a sudden shift from the traditional mode of examination. Since it was new experience for both students and teaching community, its effectiveness must be evaluated as well as proper feedback must be collected for further improvement since this mode may continue in the future too. Hence, proper evaluation of the online teaching and learning system, the conduct of the examinations during this period, the satisfaction of students and teachers, etc., are to be critically assessed. So our major objectives are to identify the overall effectiveness of online classes during a pandemic, to explore the major issues faced by the teachers while delivering the classes, to identify the issues related to the conduct of exam, to find out major challenges faced by the university students during the online classes. So these are our major objectives. So you can see our review of literature, Joshi and Vinay 2020 also explained about the online classes during this pandemic situation. Then Gina 2020 explained about the influence of ICT in online learning. Yeah, you can see our review of literature. When it comes to the methodology, the quantitative method is used in the study to collect primary data. An online questionnaire survey was conducted in the states such as Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Gujarat. Through a convenient sampling method, 90 respondents were collected from UG and PG students of different universities mentioned above. The criteria to select the set universities are determined by the researchers as per the accessibility and convenience. So our total sample was 90. 20 students from Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham Coimbatore campus, that is in Tamil Nadu. 20 students from Nagarjuna University, Gujarat. 30 students from MG University, Kerala. 10 students from Kerala University and 10 students from Bangalore University, Karnataka. You can see that chart, that pie diagram. So this is the graph related to the programs of the participants. And this is the graph is about year of participants. You can clearly understand about the year of participants from this graph. A total of 90 students have taken part in the study. Among these, 90% of students have computer access. Only 10% do not have access to computer with an internet. Gadgets used for online classes. 82.2% of students use their mobile phone for attending the online classes. 43.3% uses laptop. So the highest percentage is using of mobile phone. So you can see that graph. How is internet access to attend the classes? So 78.9% of students use their own mobile data for accessing the online classes. 36.7% of students said that they are accessing Wi-Fi for online classes, and just 3.3% use hostel Wi-Fi, 4.4% use dongle, 1.1% use other connections. Hours of classes conduct per day. Under this pandemic situation, the classes are conducted by the university to online sessions. 46.5% of students have 5 hours classes, and this is the highest percentage. 23.3% of students said that they have 4 hours of classes per day. 11.1% of students have more than 5 hours of class per day, and 3 hours for 10% of students. Only 8.9% have less than 3 hours of class per day.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. You have
Okay.
left for your presentation.
So, yeah, when it comes to the conclusion, generally speaking, we can say that the online teaching during this pandemic was effective since classes were conducted properly and timely manner. So there are few challenges such as network problems and technical issues. The major issue faced by the teachers during the delivery of classes are students are not attentive compared to offline classes, and they are often engaged in other activities since teachers can't monitor them. And the challenges is the delivery of practical subjects. Regards to the conduct of exams during this pandemic, they are not that happy, and there is difference of opinion among the students. Suggestions to view the Google form and the MCQ are the preferable exam mode, which is of course the easy method to answer. Anyhow, the prefer flexibility in this matter. Regards to the techniques used by the faculty to overcome the problems during online teaching, we can conclude that no innovative methods were introduced by them, and students are not satisfied with it, which is a major challenge to the teaching community. But data shows that teachers are trying their level best to engage with the students and make the classes live. Those students can't meet each other. They try to communicate among themselves and maintain contact with teachers virtually. So this is our conclusion. And then you can see that our references. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so next we have Miss Fasna K.
From IIT Gandhinagar. I'm a PG student in MA Society and Culture. I'm going to present my paper titled "Revolution of the Nexus Between Caste and Gender Politics in Malayalam Cinema: A Case Study of Kumbalangi Nights." This is the introduction. Like cinema is the reflection of the political, cultural, and economic and social background of society. Malayalam cinema literature is considered as cultural institution in the society because that represent the entire imagination and reflection of society. And regional languages in the film have diverse concepts, immense local knowledge, and terminologies. Most of the colloquial dialogues that have an inner meaning which cannot translate into other languages. And caste in Malayalam cinema is a constant phenomena. Malayalam cinema originated through an establishment of the white Brahmanic male members as the central characters, and their unemployment, feudal problems, and their reservations were the central theme of this movies. And this is the objective of my study. First one is to discuss the highly transparent nature of caste and gender politics in Malayalam cinema. Secondly, to analyze cinema's role in the socialization process of a seemingly developed stage like Kerala through various ubiquitous dialogues from different movies. Lastly, to conduct an intersectional analysis of the caste system, gender identity, family status, and occupation by looking at one of the recently successful film in the industry, Kumbalangi Nights. And here the methodology and theory of my study. The secondary data are the primary source of data used for the study. The data includes books, published articles, and research papers. Also, the study has taken intersectional theory to understand the caste and gender identity in Malayalam movies. Intersectional theory is defined as the overlap of various social identities contributed to a definite mode of systematic suppression and discrimination experienced by a person. This movie's caste system depicts, which means the Kumbalangi Nights caste system depicts mainly 4 intersectional factors such as occupation, economic class, and family and gender. This is the review of literature. First of all, Kannagayude Durnadappugal by Rafi Muhammad. In this paper, he talks about a movie called Neelakuil and how the upper caste portrayed in the movie by talking about the gender disparities and all. And then through this movie's content, the writer normalizes the concept of purity and pollution of the caste system that existed in society. Also, Rafi mentions that there is a dialogue in a movie which is, I'm getting any job, the only possible way to get a job is high recommendation. And alternatively, born in a scheduled caste category, birth we cannot change, because through this argument, the upper caste person like are criticizing the privileges and on the reservation of lower caste, because the higher caste people are not getting the reservation, so that they are not getting the job. Like, it is a satiric way. And the other one is plays maternity to masculinity, performing modernity and gender in Malayalam cinema. In this movie, in this paper also, he talks about the how the Brahmanic, Nambudiri and Nair culture has been taken to the Malayalam movies, and how their culture is becoming normalized in the in films, in Malayalam films. And second one is, last one is, locating PK Rosie, can a Dalit woman play a Nair role in Malayalam cinema today? And this paper, Rona says about the cinema narration, like the Dalit woman called Rosie who died due to the caste discrimination, enables the society to divide from caste violence, and which would oust women from both cinema and other public spaces in Kerala. And the Nair landlords attack Rosie for daring to be a Nair woman on a screen, and thereby prohibit her public appearance and make her disappear from history itself. We also repeat the same thing through in a different ways. And the analysis of the study is about about the caste system in Kumbalangi Nights, the movie directed by Madhusi Narayanan, writer is Shyam Pushkaran, and the major characters are Shane Nigam, Saubin Shahir, and Fahad Fazil. And when talks about this movie, the caste representation in the movie Kumbalangi Nights is related to the ascribed status of family and division of labor. The film portrays an invisible view of caste with intangible dialogues and scenery. The study of the movie conducted through intersectional theory. First of all, caste system in Kumbalangi Nights divided into 4 sections according to the intersectional factors such as occupation, economic class, family, and gender. The character development is 2 types. First of all, Shammi, and another one is Bobby. Shammi is the main character. He is a representation of upper caste person and highly patriarchal values, and he believes to have high social status. Also, he is a barber, but he sees himself as a higher class with high class job, and Bobby is a lower caste person, but still he is a representation of young, and influence of modernization are there in his lifestyle, and he believes to have low social status because of his occupation, and so that his traditional family occupation is fisherman. And however, the interesting point is that both are Shudras based on their occupation. Nevertheless, the Shudras also have segmental division related to economic well-being and social status of the profession. And okay.
You have 1 minute left for your presentation.
Okay, yeah. Last one is Baby. She is the representation of emancipated womenness in the society. And she is the sister-in-law of Shammi and falls in love with Bobby, and her family follows a matrilocal residential system. Among Malayalis, the husband staying in the wife's house after marriage is considered as a disgusting thing. However, Kumbalangi Nights reconstructs this false concept of the social system, and the movie shows how the patriarchy and caste can be so deep rooted and embodied in a person, even though he has abnormality, because Shammi has some abnormalities, mental illness, and even though his viewpoints on patriarchal things are accepting by others. Malayalam movie has some caste related features that cannot change in any way, such as the main characters are white, good looking, and upper caste. However, the troublemakers are dark and lower caste. Most of the Malayalam movies depicts an expression of power from the top. However, this movie subverts this tradition. It shows how power relations are existing in society and what are the main reason behind it. Bobby initially considered his traditional occupation, which is fishing, is a low standard job, and he tries to find better job which is the society consider as a high standard profession, and he enables to do that because of the work pressure and all, and finally he go back to his traditional work and he considered himself that it is a better job. And the film says to the low caste people, you are not lower, people's mind is lower, not your birth or occupation. It is all about their mindset and attitude. Every occupation has respect and dignity. And this is the family sector. Baby's family is more about patriarchal concept, and when it comes into the Bobby's family, their family is accepting everything except society's false concept. This is the conclusion. This study emphasized the caste representation in Malayalam film and how it is reflecting society. And this research is focusing the earlier Malayalam movies and the difference between the description of caste in recent cinema. The caste representation of the nation is not an isolated phenomenon. It contains other factors like economic class, and caste is not visible in Kerala. However, it has embodied in the mind of the people in Kerala. These are the reference that I have used for this study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we have Ms. Kirti Shah. Introduce about my paper and the research paper that I've worked on. The title is Quintessential World of Postmodern Auteur Quentin Tarantino. And to brief about the director Quentin Tarantino, he is an American filmmaker who has been working in the movie industry for almost 3 decades now. And his movies have been considered the best movies of the century. And what compelled me to do research work on him is because of his distinctive style of making movies. So I'll move ahead with the abstract. Raj, can you move ahead to the slide? Next slide. This one. Okay, so the abstract basically points out the major points of the research paper. Basically defining what a Tarantino cinematic universe is all about, that what his movies are all about. So basically, the research work was divided into main categories of defining the theme of postmodernism in the movie of Quentin Tarantino, including the theme of women empowerment and analyzing the auteur theory, which originated in the French New Wave cinema in the late 1950s. And the paper also talks a lot about the influences that Quentin Tarantino had over his career of 3 decades. And it basically concludes to the point that how well the movies and the cinema are telling the audience the stories that are literally meant to tell the society from a very very important point of view. So the paper basically tries to draw out the points of why society and the audience at large are unable to identify certain aspects of cinema at large, which provide them intellectual and cultural point of view, which most of the movies which are made are not able to give to the audience at large. So basically, I've tried to find out that why Quentin Tarantino's movies are equivalent to what we call as cinematic value. So yes, I'll move ahead to the introduction part. Next slide, please. Yes. So introduction part is basically divided into different sections, and all of these topics are interrelated with each other. The first one defines what a Tarantino cinematic universe is, which I explained earlier, which I mentioned about earlier. Defining cinema in general, that what cinema is all about, and it depends on person to person what good cinema or bad cinema is for that person. Then what is the significance of auteur theory in today's movie making industry. Then why Tarantino is an auteur. So there is a different different topic altogether, which I'll be discussing in the content analysis part.
And why Tarantino is someone who always, addresses himself as a self-taught filmmaker. He's someone who rejects the idea of attending a film school to learn how to make movies, and how he emphasizes on the fact that the one should definitely just go on and make a movie out there if they want to become a filmmaker. And there is a quite similarity between the work of David Lynch and Quentin Tarantino as American authors or American filmmakers. There's a brief explanation about it, that how David Lynch and Quentin Tarantino have been able to identify the ideal American society in their movies. The next part is how Pulp Fiction is a prime example of the theory of postmodernization in context of cinematic storytelling. And the next one talks about a filmmaker who steals. Quentin Tarantino is a filmmaker who has repeatedly said that he likes to steal from old movies and try to blend them in his own movies. That is a whole ball game altogether. And the next one is Tarantino's extended realm, in which I described that how he has been able to not only define his distinctive style, but he has always been appreciating cinema of all the countries around the world, and trying to infuse that cinema is diverse in its unique way. And the second last one is Tarantino meets women of his cinematic universe. And this one thing that I've been able to find out in Quentin Tarantino's movies is that the women are at the forefront in his movies, and they are not depicted as usual in the way the society wants to see women. So a lot of emphasis was put down for the research work on how the female characters in Tarantino's movies are all about. And,
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am, but you have 2 minutes left for your presentation.
I'll quickly round it up. Don't worry. So I'll move to the next slide. So the review of literature basically was all about identifying if if there is any significance of thematic representation, narrative structure, and the character-driven story. So how these three elements they are interconnected with each other, and defining the entire Quentin Tarantino's movie. So that I was able to find out in review of literature, and I've tried to present it in my paper as well. So that was all. That is brief idea about my review of literature. Next slide, please. So methodology part, I've applied a content analysis part, and in this part to analyze the movie, the movies of Quentin Tarantino. I've analyzed movies like Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill series, Inglourious Basterds, and Django Unchained. So these are some of the movies which drew my attention for the content analysis part. So I have basically identified the author theory written by the American film critic Andrew Sarris, and the last but not the least, that how feminism is different in terms of cinematic storytelling. So I'll move to content analysis part. So my content analysis part was divided into different segments. Firstly, it was about identifying whether Quentin Tarantino is an author, filmmaker or not. So by Andrew Sarris's critical theory, an essay he wrote in 1960s about American author filmmakers and what author means in that phase. So I tried to analyze the entire essay, and it definitely I came to a conclusion, and I found out that Quentin Tarantino is someone who can be defined as an American author based on the movies that he has made. The second part of the content analysis identified with that why Quentin Tarantino likes to blend in alternate reality in his movies and not showing us the reality which the world actually rejects in one sense. So that is what his cinema is all about, which we can see in movies like Inglourious Basterds, Kill Bill series, and also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And next slide. So
So the other part of content analysis was about feminism in his movies, that the actual feminism that the feminist writers and the intellectuals have defined for us is different in terms of cinematic storytelling. Women can be portrayed as independent ones. They can be associated with violence, and there is no gender biasness in Tarantino's movies. And his camera work is defined in certain way, in a unique way, that his camera is not gender biased. He is trying to show us that what society actually projects to tell us in one sense. So feminism and women empowerment in Tarantino cinema is different, and many of the critics and feminist writers have neglected his idea of women empowerment in the movie. And the last point of the content analysis deals with the cultural aspect of the society. It defines cultural codes in a different way than any other cinematic storytelling actually deals with. He likes to define in a different way using the pop cultural references, songs and music, and identifying it with genre of movies, and pack it in his narrative and storytelling structure. So that was content analysis on Quentin Tarantino's movies. Next one. The concluding part and the findings that I've found out are that the cinematic universe of Quentin Tarantino is not about how well you are telling stories, but how actually you are telling the story with your camera and with your writing techniques. So that is one major finding that I have come around. And the second part that I mentioned here is that the films of Quentin Tarantino identify characters as someone who are, a target of mixed identities. They are part of different conjecture altogether. And we audiences fail to accept such kind of cinema in general. But yes, Quentin Tarantino's movies have been widely regarded as the best ones, and they are defined as cinema. So these are my findings, and I hope I have been clear with my idea of research on Quentin Tarantino and his work. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we have Professor Azaz Ahmed Ghane.
I think the first presenter was Dr. Gilbert.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Not many comments though. It was actually a very good paper. I think you've done a good work with your survey. The questions were, I think, very specific and well thought out, right? Although one of the things that I noticed is you have not mentioned the limitations of the study. So what happens with an area-specific study is that the sample is limited. And then, of course, all the results that you've gotten is limited to that specific area, right? So, but of course, most of your findings are written in a general term. So you can definitely do that. But I think I would really suggest you to add some limitations and recommendations as well. Because research is related to working conditions of journalists, to be very honest, is very less. I think we are all aware of that, right? So it will be really excellent for your research if you add limitations and the recommendations. Otherwise, it's an excellent paper. Thank you very much. The next presenter after Sir was, I think, is it Radhika Nair?
Yes.
You had done a paper on online journalists and online journalism and the
era of COVID-19.
Yes, I realized that there is not much any issue, by the way. It's a good research. But the thing is, in your research, in your review of literature, you have added newspaper articles, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't do that. We have to add proper research papers in the review of literature, okay? So it will be, so the thing is, newspaper articles can be used anywhere else in the research, but not in the review of literature, because we add literature. It means research that has already been conducted by somebody else, right? We add it there. So you can, in the review of literature, we can also add books, which is well researched.
Got it.
But
Thank you for the
newspaper
suggestion.
articles should be added somewhere else, right? It will be really good. Whatever articles you've taken, they're excellent articles. They can be used in your research, but somewhere else. And another thing that I've noticed is you've used the term depression in a very light way, which I would really not suggest, because depression is a clinical, what do you call it? Clinical term, right? We cannot really use it lightly. We cannot say that just because we were not feeling it for a few days, we were depressed. So depression does not really go away. Once you have depression, it's for lifetime, and people who have depression will really not appreciate depression being used in this way. So I would really suggest you to maybe replace this term with work stress or any other term. I have no idea. It's your research, so you can go ahead and use any other term rather than depression, actually, okay? But I think the research is already done, but I would say that is kind of not really suggested, okay? And it will be, again, nice. Again, this research is looking at the working conditions of online journalists. So if you can add implications, meaning what do you think, what do you suggest would make the working condition for online journalists better? Because you know, you mentioned that the working hours for online journalists have increased, isn't it?
Yes.
And then I'm sure you have noticed that the wages have decreased, right? So the hours have increased, the wages have decreased. So what are the things that they can do to improve their working conditions? So that you can add in your implications. It means what your study would like to suggest, right? For improvement in this field. And again, we don't have much papers related to working conditions of online journalists in particular. So this is actually an excellent subject for a paper, okay? So excellent subject. So you can add, again, limitations, because your respondents are highly limited, right?
Yes.
And yes, and then you have made statements such as majority of the respondents said they were depressed. Again, that would be highly wrong to say that, right? So you may say that, what do you call it? Again, this is also contradictory to the statement that you've made, where you said that most of the respondents said that the quality of their work increased during pandemic, and then you said they are depressed. Do you understand? So depression, during depression, people can't eat food. They don't like to wash their face. That's what happens during the clinical depression phase. So you cannot use these terms. These are two contradictory things that you're talking about in one place. Okay. So just be careful of these things. Otherwise, I think you're very enthusiastic. I can see you are interested in research. You have a very bright future. This subject is excellent. You can really do well with this, okay? So these are just my suggestions. You can look into it and then go forward with it, okay, if you want.
Thank you so much. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
The next one is Farzana. Is Farzana here?
Yes, ma'am.
With your paper, I think I received another paper with, I think you had, did you send two papers?
I did, but then I couldn't carry out the presentation for the second one.
Correct. So what we usually do is when you go for a presentation, you send a paper to the team will send it to me, right? So you totally changed the paper on spot, right? You brought this paper today, isn't it?
No, actually I submitted two and I chose this one. I let go of the other.
Oh, okay. So it was a total surprise for me, but then it's a good paper, good subject. Okay. The other paper that you did is also actually good. You could have actually presented that. It was a good paper.
Thank you, ma'am.
Here, what I noticed in that paper and again in this paper is you have used a lot of statements in your research paper, right? So I say this to my students and I also say this to my colleagues, and also I'm very careful about this. I don't use statements in research and I don't allow others to use statements, because that will actually get you in trouble, right? So I think your objective, one of your first objectives, I have not written on the objective, but you have presupposed something there.
Okay.
In your objective, if you go back and look at the objective, first of all, I think you've not numbered the objective, but you've written, I think, one objective about related to KKK.
Yes.
So you have written a statement. A statement is something, it would be your word against mine. There is no evidence. You will just say that I'm correct. This is what I think is correct. Everybody knows, but then there is no evidence to it, right? So in objectives, what we do is we don't add statements. What we say is, we are going to look into this. Is it correct or not?
Yes.
Right? But then if we add a statement is something that you're 100% sure of.
Okay.
So we avoid that kind of thing in objectives and while we are framing, let's say hypothesis, right? Yes. So we have to be very careful, especially in objectives, not to add statements. So you can just look into that, okay?
All right.
And one major thing is you don't have review of literature, or did you not mention it in the PPT?
I did mention it in the PPT, the primary sources that are the films.
So the review of literature, which would mean that where are the other research papers who looked into the same subject? I am 100% sure there are millions of research papers on white supremacism and KKK, because KKK is pretty much, you would call it the celebrity cult or group or whatever you would like to term it, right? So there are millions of papers. You could have looked into any of those, right?
I did look into them, but it's my first time writing an APA format, so I didn't know if I had to include them in the review of literature section.
Okay, no worries. So you have to definitely include it, okay? And then you have to mention that these people also said similar things, right? So in research, because we are all working on a trial and error basis, right? We are all trying to learn. So we cannot be 100% sure of what we are saying, because we need evidence, because this is research, because this is, since this is research, it has to be empirical. That is why we need evidence. You got it? Yeah. Especially in presentations, people will be looking at the evidence that you're presenting as to what you're saying. Otherwise, it will again look like your word against mine. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
And then for your analysis, I noticed you did not really specify any parameters. Did you?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, so that is again a mistake. In analysis, see, the only thing that we do in an analysis is we draw parameters, right? We will look at 1, 2, 3. It can be minimum 3 parameters. We look at the parameters and then we come to a conclusion that these are the parameters we looked at, and then this is what we came to conclusion for, right? So if you do that, there is clarity in your research. Otherwise, your research looks like a review. It looks like a review of the KKK. Are you understanding my point now?
Yeah, I get it.
This is an excellent subject, by the way. You could have done really well. But again, as Robbie sir said, you have a lot of time to improve. I think you have around 2 weeks to improve this paper. You can do really well. This is an excellent subject. So these are only my suggestions. Again, I think you've chosen an excellent topic. You're very confident. Your presentation was excellent. Okay. So please keep these things into mind. Okay. And avoid using statements. Your paper has a lot of statements.
Yes, ma'am.
And statements, again, tomorrow, anybody, if it is published, anybody can come up to you and say that, where is the evidence? How have you come to these conclusions? Because we will think, oh, it is universal, everybody knows it. But then as researchers, we can't just put it out like that, okay? So we'll have to put evidences. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Next was Sheetal.
Yes, ma'am.
With online teaching, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good subject again, because since we are all teachers, we are all teaching online. We have all had this sudden shift, sudden paradigm shift without any warning, from offline to online, right? We went there suddenly, and then all of us somehow struggled with it. And here, I think, again, very good subject.
Thank you.
So one of the things I noticed is you have not specified your sample in the methodology.
Yes, ma'am.
You specified that in data analysis, which is not the correct place, right?
Okay.
So you have to specify the sample in methodology. You have to say this many students were taken from this university, this. So that is your representative sample that will go under methodology chapter, okay? So you can add your, where you've written the different states, right? So that will be your sample universe, and your sample, representative sample will be those particular 10, 20 students you have taken from separate universities. Please specify that in your methodology part, okay? It's actually not required to be specified down there in the data analysis part, okay? So just add it in your methodology part. And also please, for your study, it's highly recommended to add limitations. Okay? So because your sampling is highly restricted, okay? So the issue, there will be an issue with generalization of this study. And you've also made a comment saying that most teachers did not use any innovative techniques in their teaching, which will be highly wrong, because in several universities, even if the paradigm shift was really quick, they used innovative techniques, particularly in our university here, right? All of the teachers implemented blended learning. They bought new gadgets, right? So blended learning has pretty much become the norm in our university right now. So we all actually shifted immediately from offline to online, and then went to innovative techniques to help the classes, right? So again, that is a statement that you've made, that you'll have to restrict, saying that the respondents of this study, right, did not opt for any innovative techniques. Otherwise, all the teachers who's going to read your paper are going to be highly, highly annoyed with this, okay? because that will not be correct for everybody. I'm sure, again, majority might not have used it, right? Because majority of the teachers are, of course, just now learning about everything, right? So I totally understand where you're coming from, but then you can definitely look into these suggestions, okay? Excellent subject, excellent subject. We really need more studies in this, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ashish, is it Ashish? Is Ashish
Yes, ma'am.
here? Okay,
Yes.
Ashish, again, your subject or your topic is excellent because you looked at the social media marketing techniques, the new social media marketing techniques that are being used by Swiggy and Zomato. Excellent subject. But since you are
Thank you.
in BA second year, and I can totally understand you're very new to research, okay, you need a good guide. Is somebody there to mentor you in your college?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
I have two professors.
Excellent. Please spend more time with your professors. Or the only thing you need is a proper structure for your research. Your research lacks any kind of structure. Do you understand? It's an excellent subject, but there is no structure. So what you've sent also, I've already gone through it. There is no structure, and your language in the research needs to be polished, right? You have used highly informal language. Please do not do that in research, okay? And of course, we use simple language, but not informal language, right? So do you understand there is a difference between simple language and colloquial language, right? Colloquial language is how we speak to each other. Simple language is saying, basically not using contractions such as I do not go home will be a proper sentence, then I don't go home. Don't is a contraction of do not, right? So there is a difference between simple language and colloquial language. Please don't use that, okay? And you have made a major statement in your methodology. You said that this study is highly empirical in nature due to several reasons. Now, every study is empirical in nature. Every study, every research is empirical in nature because it is research. If it is not research, then it's not empirical. So when you say highly empirical, that is inappropriate because no research is highly or lowly empirical. It is just empirical. Do you understand? So in research, we don't exaggerate.
So like there are two, either it will be highly doctrinal, or just to simplify, I said it will be highly empirical because I didn't found much.
I understand. I read your whole methodology. I remember it. Don't worry. I have an excellent memory. So the thing is, when you say highly empirical, that is inappropriate because we don't say highly empirical. It is empirical. When you say empirical, it is enough. Do you understand? There is no such thing as highly empirical and lowly empirical. Empirical means scientific. What is highly scientific and less scientific? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Is there any research that is less scientific? If it is research, it is scientific. Do you understand?
Yes, understood.
So I'm sure it can be, what do you call it? But then I think, are you from management background?
No, I'm from journalism.
Oh, because your language is again highly sounding like management background. That is why I was kind of confused.
Well, it was related to that sector, so
because most of the things that you've written is in a more exaggerated form, which we avoid in journalism in particular. In journalism, you have to be highly objective and scientific, particularly with your research, right? Because that's the only thing we have right now. If you look at mainstream journalism, we are losing it. So we have the only thing that we have to save ourselves is academics. We have to be careful here, okay? And there are a few things that I've noted. Please take it down for suggestions, okay? And again, focusing on doctrinal approach might not have provided the real results. Again, a statement. Don't use statements.
There was not much content available on it.
I understand, but you have to write that. Write that. Not many research has been conducted in this subject. You cannot say that doctrinal means, what does it mean? What have you decided to take this as here when you say doctrinal approach?
Like a review of several literatures, research paper, books. That's
you mean
what
by doctrinal, you mean the conventional, right? The accepted, the usual, right?
Yeah.
And your study after that goes on to say that I conducted a survey. Do you know survey is one of the most conventional method to do research, to find public opinion. So once you've said that, if I focused on doctrinal approach, I would not have gotten good results. And then you go ahead and use survey. That is contradictory in nature, and research must not in any case be contradictory. Do you understand? Are you clear or are you still confused? Am I confusing you with all this information?
As per the knowledge I've had now, survey was more like empirical, but okay,
It's not more
noted.
like, survey is empirical in terms of public opinion study. If you want to understand public opinion, you have to do a survey. You cannot guess it. You cannot read a book and think this is what the public is thinking.
True.
You understand? So that is why a survey is the most conventional and suggested method for public opinion. So when you make a statement like focusing on doctrinal approach will not help me, and then later you take one of those conventional methods, this is contradictory. And also you should not add any statements like this in your methodology. Okay. Rather not to write all of this. It's not required. Methodology means what method you used in the research. That's it. Explain it, finish it. No need to explain this would not have worked or that would not have worked. It is not a book. Okay. And I think some other things that you've written. One of the major things that I have gotten, Indians might be termed as people who take no time in boycotting something. This is a major statement. Who told you this? Where is the evidence? How many research papers did you find who said the same thing?
By analyzing social media and the past history of boycotts that have been going on for the past 2 to 3 years.
But how many people looked at it?
Any shows?
How many people did research on that and said that, okay, this is proven? For example, I can say that not many people like rice, because I saw many people saying hashtag boycott rice on online. I saw hashtag boycott rice in Instagram, Facebook. Then I think, oh, majority people don't like eating rice. Can I write it in my research? Because I saw it on Instagram, Facebook, and all this Twitter and all. Because now I think because people don't like rice. So I'll say people don't like rice. Can I do that?
Not exactly.
So why did you do this? Indians might be termed as people who take no time in boycotting something. This is again a major statement. We can't use statements in research. Please meet your mentors and show your research. They will faint if they see these kind of statements there. Do you understand? Your professors will 100% faint if they see this. I think they have not seen it. Please show this particular statement and tell them what I said, okay?
Okay.
Please show this to them, okay? Because you cannot add this. You are new. I want you to learn in the best possible way. We need more researchers in journalism, especially somebody like you, somebody who's young, somebody who's enthusiastic, somebody who has worked hard. I can see you've worked really hard to look at all of this, because to go through social media contents of so many different platforms is not easy. I find it really difficult. And if you've done it, you've done an excellent work and you have a bright future. Please work hard and you have an excellent subject at hand. Please go spend more time with your mentors and polish it. It will be an excellent paper, okay? Good presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Dr. Sagarika here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, you're from SGRR Dehradun, right?
Yes, SGRR University, yeah.
That is excellent. I know about the university. I think it's really good. And it's really nice to actually meet somebody from there here. I lived in Dehradun for 3 years in my younger days, of course. So your paper is excellent, ma'am. You have studied the regional content, right? Regional content and the relationship between participation of women in society and regional content, isn't it? It's an excellent subject. But one of the things I would really like to suggest you, ma'am, is that you must, you have, again, I was talking about statements.
Yes.
Your title is a statement, ma'am. Your title of the topic, your title of the research is a statement. You have made a major statement in the title, but then your study has not been able to prove it. Because in the title, you have used India. And your study is restricted to Bhubaneswar. So why don't you just replace India with Bhubaneswar? Then your research is excellent. So because you have used India and you don't have the backing in the research paper, what happens is your research will be questioned tomorrow as to, you have said India and then you've just gone on to look at Bhubaneswar and the women in Bhubaneswar. So how can you say it's women all over India? So you can just remove India and add Bhubaneswar. I think we need more studies in regional areas. So we have hundreds, millions of study, ma'am, with India. So I think if we use more terms like Bhubaneswar or any other state, let's say I'm from Sikkim, that would actually help our states, right? So we would be highlighting our states and highlighting the women from our state. So,
Sure.
and of course, we need more women to speak about women and support each other as well. So excellent paper, ma'am. There are just few more suggestions I'd like to give. Again, your conclusion that you've made is full of statements, meaning you've made major statements with no evidence and your research did not really prove it. So please be careful of that. That's it. Tomorrow you might get questioned. That is the only thing. And conclude from the study that most responses were in favor of, Again, you have said that regional content exception is exceptionally vital for augmentation of women participation in media. That is a major statement and you have not proven it. So again, you can just kind of minimize the sentence and then change it to anything. Otherwise, ma'am, it's a really excellent paper and you can specify the limitations. But if you change the title to Bhubaneswar, I think you don't really have to mention any limitations.
I will do that.
Except
I just get your point. Yes. I will change that.
Yeah, it's an excellent paper, ma'am. I really, really appreciate your paper. I really love the subject and the work that you've done is excellent. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one was Fasna.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Fasna. You did a study on the movie Kumbalangi Nights, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
think there's a
Yes,
network connection on our side.
Yes, Kumbalangi, yeah.
I
Yes.
think it's the same paper, right? I'm a little bit confused.
Yes, ma'am. No, Kumbalangi Nights, ma'am. Yes, you're right, doctor.
Okay. Can she hear me, sir?
First,
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I have done my work on Kumbalangi Night.
Okay. Very nice subject, by the way. You're looking at the caste and society, I believe, right? In basic. So very excellent subject. I would like to really point out that you've used a word, I would rather say statement, which says seemingly developed state. What would that mean? Is she from Kerala?
Developing state. Like
So when you say seemingly,
that is visibly developing state on the basis of literature and
Okay. So in research, we will avoid using terms like seemingly because it has a negative connotation. When you say seemingly developed state, you're trying to say that Kerala looks like it's developed, but it's not. Right? So that's what the connotation is. I think you're well aware of that, right? When you read the statement, it has a negative statement, negative connotation. Now you can just go back and look at it, right? So in research, we have to be very careful of the discourse, the language that we're bringing into the discourse. So when you write a research paper with terms like things like this, like when you, if you've just written seemingly developed state 10 times in your research paper and then added Kerala in front of it, most people are going to think later on after reading the paper, they're going to have an idea that Kerala might not really be as developed as we think it is. Do you understand? So you're going to actually cast that state in a negative light by using such terms, okay? You have to be careful about that. And because it actually sometimes it tends to reflect the bias on the researcher's part, which is totally okay to have biases. Subjectivity is really okay. But in research we should not try to reflect it, okay? And your first objective says highly transparent nature, okay? You have said that the caste system is highly transparent in the Malayalam movies. I would suggest you to remove the highly transparent. Again, this is a statement. You have already assumed that the caste system is highly transparent, okay? So without any evidences, okay? You have not really suggested any evidence. So here what you have to do is you can just say that your objective is to study the nature of caste and gender in Malayalam movies. So if it is highly transparent, if it is not transparent, that you will come to a conclusion in the end of the study, isn't it? So right now you just have to be neutral. So here by saying highly transparent, you're already biased. That we should not do in research, okay? Again, you have used seemingly developed here in your objective as well. Try to remove that as well, because that will again not help you, okay? And in your study, you have no findings. You have not really specified any findings. It will be really good if you can just take at least 10 points from your study and add it in the findings. I'm sure you found few things, right? Related to the study?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct?
I think
you have actually
that is in the last.
Correct, but you did not specify it, right? You put it in conclusion. Conclusion means it's the end of your study. So just take out the findings from the conclusion and add a chapter called findings, and add all your findings there, and then you write a conclusion as to how the research was, right? So
Yeah, ma'am.
please do that, and specify your research gap as well. When you've done the review of literature, say what is the gap, what has been done before, and what you're going to do, right? Another thing that I realized is you've used the term white to say that in Malayalam movies, women are shown as white. White means Caucasian, somebody from US or Europe, right? It is not white. So when we say black, they are considered as from Africa. So we use brown and fair, right? Or I don't know, not very fair. So you have to use the term FAIR, fair, in the place of white, okay? So because otherwise, if you use white, people might get confused as to what white means here, okay? I think you have done well compared to other analysis, content analysis, because you have parameters here, right? You have segregated your parameters, so that's actually really good. And your research topic is excellent, so good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is this all, or were there more people? I think Kirti, is it?
Kirti Shah.
Kirti, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, Kirti, is this your dissertation?
Yes, ma'am.
Why have you chosen to remove your supervisor's name from this dissertation?
I did not mention it in this one because I edited it, but in my final dissertation, which I submitted college, I have mentioned it in there.
Since this is the same research, you must always mention your supervisor's name, because your supervisor puts in several hours of his or her day or year, or how much ever time the dissertation took into editing your dissertation, helping you with the topic, guiding you with everything, which is why we give them a credit as to, okay, this person has helped with my research paper, okay? So try to be mindful of that. If anybody helps you, you must give them credit. It's a good thing to do. Just a suggestion, okay? Your title is really good, and it promises more than it can deliver. Your title is really, I understand you are a big fan of Quentin Tarantino. I'm also a fan of Tarantino, but you mentioned postmodernism here, but you fail to mention postmodernism in any other place in your research except, I think, one place or two places. So what you have to do when you've mentioned postmodernism or anything related to postmodern art is you will have to again specify the parameters. So when you're talking about postmodernism, for example, you have actually done the work, but you've not used the correct terms and the correct method. So you said that in the end that the movie, Tarantino's idea of making a movie is more about how you make the movie rather than how well you make the movie, isn't it?
Yes, yes. How you
So
tell
that
it
is
rather than how.
Correct. So it's more about how you tell the story than how well you tell the story, right? I understand Tarantino's this thing. Here you're talking about subjectivity, which is a postmodern idea.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Subjectivity and individualism is a postmodern idea. So you have to mention those kind of things in your research. Specify that as parameters of studying Tarantino as a auteur, or however you pronounce it, right? So an auteur means somebody who has high influence, right? Who highly influences the art that has been created, that tomorrow, even if somebody else who doesn't know them watches that, will have an idea that, oh, somebody, great might have made it, or even if they just got introduced, they would be able to tell that, okay, Tarantino made this movie. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So you could have just added things like subjectivity or cynicism, because you have no parameters. That is why your analysis is again more like a review and a kind of mixture of different things that other people did, which is like a review of literature. Okay. So in your analysis, you can add parameters like subjectivity, cynicism, and whatever it is that you think is the characteristic of Tarantino, you can use that and compare it with postmodernism, right? Or postmodern features or characteristics of, I don't know, people, thoughts, ideas, right? So that will be excellent. And please specify your findings, okay? And your third objective needs to be rewritten. I don't know what was the third objective, but I've written it this way. It means there is a problem there. Please look into it. I did not write your objective here, okay? So please look into it. It will help you, okay? This is again just for your help, and these are suggestions. It will actually polish your paper. And I understand you are very young, okay? You're still learning research, so you still have really long way to go. I think you have a bright future in research, so please work hard and polish this paper. I hope it gets published, okay? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dikhila, for the micro level analysis. I know that you are so shrewd and sharp because the corrections and the
Because I teach writing, sir.
the linguistic and your vast experience in the field of media and print media and all. I know that that is why you are selected for this particular session. Also, thank you so much for the micro level, wonderful, excellent analysis. Thank you.